Hey guys, Ben Armstrong, CEO at 9 Miles Media, and I am so excited. We are launching a brand new series. The teams put their heads together. They've come up with a great name. It's called Coffee with Ben, and very original, right? And we're going to be sitting down with business leaders, senior executives, CEOs, CMOs, agency folks, as well as organizations who are making a difference. I want to talk to the people who are stepping up to the plate, and during these challenging times, they're either leading their customers and their clients through challenging times, or they're overcoming challenges themselves in their own business, figuring that out and sharing lessons along the way with us. So I can't wait to dive into some of these and dissect all the lessons learned. So pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and let's dive in. Enjoy. Hey guys, I'm here with Devin Kelley from Method Savvy. Devin, how you doing?
Good. Just getting comfortable at home.
I hear that. Well, hey, happy Friday. I know it's a weird time. I think it's really important for us to kind of stick together as agency folks and tighten the bonds. You almost have to be more intentional these days about social connection. So while everybody else is social distancing, I'm trying to do the opposite of that and just kind of sit down with some really smart people who have all sorts of interesting things going on for their own businesses and their own clients. So I'd love to hear a little bit more if you want to share a little bit more about Method Savvy and what you guys do to normally add value to clients and maybe how that might have shifted more recently.
Sure. We're a 10-year-old marketing consultancy. We're based in Durham. Work with folks kind of throughout the Southeast, and are pretty much full service. We kind of cover brand experience and growth acceleration type tactics, and look to integrate those. We kind of feel the biggest challenge most marketing folks have today is just the huge breadth of things that make up marketing. From analytics to engineering to video to personalization to creative and brand. There's just so many things that are marketing today. Figuring out what to focus on and how they all work together is really the hard part. So that's where we focus and spend a lot of our time.
I love it. And your role there, what does that normally have you getting into on a daily basis?
So I run client services, which is kind of making sure our existing accounts are productive and aligned and happy, and net new business there. So I'm very much not used to being stuck in one place to work like this. So that is very much the adjustment on my side.
I hear that. So how are you guys keeping up and kind of leading the way forward? What do those conversations look like, maybe internally and then more externally with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think like everybody, we've transitioned to a virtual environment, spend a lot of time on things like Zoom or Google Hangouts or Microsoft Teams or whatever the folks we're partnering with kind of have lined up. For our team, it was I don't want to say an easy transition, but a smooth transition to a more virtual environment. We're lucky enough to be in an industry that transitions pretty easily to kind of working remotely. So obviously appreciative of that, and the flexibility of the team and kind of getting there quickly. With that in mind, we very much have had to adapt to our different client worlds. I've said it kind of again and again. Everybody's experiencing this differently. There are some people that are business as usual. There are other people that are having their worlds flipped upside down. So I think in the short term, we were able to make the transition pretty smoothly and kind of work with our clients there, but have to kind of approach every conversation on a case by case basis.
I think that's really important, case by case, but also kind of industry by industry, right? No one is having exactly the same experience. Of course, we're all experiencing kind of a shared experience, but that can be very different based on your individual family circumstance, based on where you are and the sort of work that you do. And I think it's easy for anybody to make an assumption about someone's work or someone's personal situation. So I think that's really neat that you guys are able to lean into that idea that no one's exact experience is the same. I'm curious from a client communication standpoint, especially on the new business side, right? I'm sure you guys experienced a lot of the same sort of things we did, where maybe deals that were certainly going to close the next day, maybe didn't quite close in the way that you thought they would and things like that. But what are you seeing as far as big trends on the client service side?
Yeah, I mean, I think just put people first. It's not about the deal. It's not about the scope is what the scope is or was like. Be there to be helpful. And we have a kind of variety of services, and from our perspective, we've just taken the approach that people's world may not be the same as it was yesterday, and we just need to kind of walk in knowing that. And be as helpful as we can along the way. One of the phrases I've used for a long time, and I always use it when there's transitions on the client side, like new leadership, or somebody brings a new tool in or something like that. But I feel like it's been particularly relevant lately, which is asking folks what is it that we should forget. Just be willing to sure, we were doing that. We're not going to do that anymore. I know you told us this before. We're just not going to, nope. That isn't the goal. That isn't the partner. That isn't the team. Tell me what I should forget. And a lot of the time that's a lot easier than, trying to figure out all the things that you should remember.
I feel that definitely resonates with me. I think a lot of people are pretty entrenched in the way that they do things, whether that be like their morning macchiato they get on the way to the office, or the way that they work out, or the way that they conduct themselves in business. And fundamentally, everything had to change in the last few weeks, right? And I think some people have figured out how to adapt with that faster than others. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and frankly, there's just a whole bunch of people that don't know, right? Like what's going to happen next, or what turn we're going to take, and it's okay to say that, and tell me that, hey, I need to forget the goal that we had before. That doesn't mean I know what the new one is.
I feel that. So I'm curious, how have you been adapting to these changes more personally? Like what's kind of getting you out of bed in the morning and keeping you sane?
Uh, I don't know if anything is. You know, we're figuring it out step by step. I mean, we're lucky enough that here in North Carolina, anyway, this has all happened with kind of the arrival of spring, and getting to spend some time outside and all that kind of stuff is good, and a welcome break from, I don't know. I was going to say the office environment, but that's not entirely correct right now. So I think it's just a lucky kind of appreciation on our side that it's not 40 degrees and raining for us to kind of go spend time outside, but 70 and sunny is certainly a helpful break.
Yeah, no kidding. So, we're also seeing some folks find ways to take advantage of this, and find ways to see some light at the end of the tunnel. Some brands have launched big campaigns. A number of them have pivoted previous campaigns to be slightly more aligned with the current climate. I'm curious, are you guys doing a lot of work in that space, trying to salvage what was a previous campaign and do some pivots and that sort of thing? And if so, what's working?
So I think there's a lot of wait and see in terms of how to message directly into this. I think there's a few brands that have kind of purposely made themselves more available, but how much you lean into whatever may be happening day to day from a kind of public relations standpoint is tough, because things are moving so quickly. I think there are different industries that have been impacted in different ways. There are less on the campaign side of things. I think there's a lot that's on pause, and there's a lot that's having to shift in terms of budgets or seasonality, with just how you're doing what are really essential services. I don't want to say optional things. It's really core type stuff. And I think we've probably all been getting too many emails, stuff that may or may not be relevant. And I think back to kind of our early conversation, just look to be helpful. Look to be helpful to your customers. It's not about you. And I think it's okay to say, we're not launching something new or leaning into this too hard, but there are all kinds of folks that we're working with who are, seeing all kinds of interest in the work that they were doing, because it's all of a sudden more relevant, and that's okay, right? It's okay to be able to be helpful here. And that's not much different than the kind of empathetic approach you'd encourage people to take overall. But I think you do have to be really sensitive to how you kind of bring those things to market today.
I think so too. So I'm curious, what would be your advice to the small business folks out there whose businesses have obviously been, immensely impacted, to maybe the folks who've had to close their doors temporarily? What can they be doing during this time to get ahead from a content angle, from messaging, from PR and marketing standpoint, the stuff that we're all consumed with every day? What should they be thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the folks there, who have been impacted more severely, be really honest, and show people what you're doing. Everybody's having to adapt, and there's just a ridiculous amount of creativity that people are showing, ingenuity that people are showing. And if you had asked the restaurant world if they could make the shift to totally take out environments in 7 to 10 days, they probably would have told you no, right? So the things that people are doing, from making environments more friendly to the shoppers, to shifting to e-commerce, to launching delivery, to delivering services or coaching or whatever else online. Like people will figure it out, and just be really honest about that, and kind of where you're going. And I don't think there is a do this, do that playbook, but everybody's having to figure this out. And I'm sure challenges will continue to arise that we just have to take in stride. But be frank and honest, and show people what you're doing. It's not super different than every other day. Show, don't tell, and put the customer first.
I love it. I went to a burger joint the other day, and they had included with each one of their takeout orders a handwritten note that was just a very simple 8.5 by 11 photocopied version of what the owner had written out. And they were just very kind of in no uncertain terms explaining the impact that our individual small order of a burger and some fries was going to have on each member of their staff. And they went into detail to talk about what it meant to them as a small business owner to have people support their burger joint through this crisis, and the way that then they were in turn supporting their supply chain members and also their vendors and everybody else. And they kind of highlighted the overarching impact, almost like a 6 degrees of separation type of situation where everything is so interlinked. And I thought that was a really cool way to kind of lean into that and kind of emphasize that, hey, yeah, you're just buying a burger and fries, and so you get to enjoy that. But also you should feel really good that you're actually helping us out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like to some extent, everybody's in an episode of like How It's Made right now, and like seeing what the impact is to supply chain, what's really important to people, what's essential and what's not. Like we're all getting a peek behind the curtain on a whole bunch of that stuff, and like trying to fake it through it just isn't a great strategy. Be honest about that, and like all things considered, like there's still a burger to go get, right? And like at some point there may not be tomatoes that go on it because that part of the supply chain's broken, but like you may have to say, hey, we don't have tomatoes and here's why. And that's actually a good way to develop kind of understanding, instead of saying, nope, we don't have those. Like, no, we don't have them, and like they'll be back in 2 weeks, and it's because the truck coming from here can't get there anymore. Well, that everybody learned something. And I don't know, I think a lot of that has been kind of fascinating, and just how the world's changed and how different people have solved different problems in it so quickly.
I think so too. And neither of us are in the burger business, but I'm curious, in your business, with your leadership team, what are some of those things that maybe represent the tomatoes on your menu that right now aren't as relevant, or right now represent an opportunity for you to have a client that came in for one need that now you're able to service them in a different way? Have you guys been able to find some menu substitutions, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing that across the board. Every conversation we're having with clients right now is about, like, how are you? Like, let's start there. Are we still launching the thing that we'd planned to launch? Is this as important as it was yesterday? And so there are clients that we've worked with who, had outsourced things or had things working overseas that now are looking for redundancies closer to home. There are folks who, have had to bump up ad budgets because there's just more demand for what it is that they're selling. We've had people, everybody in the B2B space has essentially had, a whole pile of their plans on the trade show side of things all turn over. What are we going to do with that instead? How do you make up for those conversations, those leads, those orders? And what do you do with that budget? So, almost everything has some level of flux in it. And, I think just being adaptive and listening well there is the biggest key. And, that goes for us internally, just as an executive team. We have a recurring monthly meeting to go over kind of a scorecard and an understanding of where we are. And that conversation was yesterday morning. And fundamentally, like, we just hadn't done the background work. Like, we didn't have the scorecard updated. Like, that wasn't the biggest priority. But we spent the better part of that time just talking about what we'd heard from our clients and what things were kind of happening that were similar. And, it may have actually been a more productive use of time.
I like that. I think starting with how are you is super important, right? I think everybody in business gets pretty used to running the process the same way every time and gets used to the normal course of business. But of course, this isn't the normal course of business, and it's not the normal every day, every month meeting, right? The next meeting you walk into could be very different, even for just like one member of your team. So that's really important. Well, hey, Devin, you want to tell everybody a little bit more about Method Savvy and how they can find you guys and what you're doing online?
Sure. Methodsavvy.com. You can always find us there. Whole bunch of case studies, and we've got some podcast recordings and whatnot up there from over the last year or two. Case studies and chat and all that kind of stuff. So you can actually talk with me on there. Devin PK10 on all the social stuff, and there's no such thing as a bad conversation. So always happy to catch up here and chat otherwise.
Absolutely. Well, this was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks. And next time, I don't know, somewhere down the road here, we'll do it in person.
Next time your place, we'll see if it's virtual or not. We'll put you on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, there you go. I'll just do the interview next time. We'll just trade off.
I love it. Yeah, that'd be fun. Thanks, Devin.